This is Twit.
Say this for me, because I murder it every time I try to. Exynos 990 chipset.
I say Exynos, but I probably pronounce
Exynos,
a lot of things
that works
wrong.
for me. Exynos works for me. Quote, 20% faster overall and twice as fast on AI-specific tasks, a new 5G modem, all of it on a Intel poking with a stick 7-nanometer process.
Yeah.
Are we excited? Do we care?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, anytime a new Exynos comes out, typically for us in the US, we don't often get the latest and greatest Samsung phone with the Exynos chipset. We generally get a high-end Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset, and then the international version of a given phone will come out with the latest and greatest Exynos chipset. Exynos has some pretty compelling performance characteristics. I think that Qualcomm typically with their platform offers better graphics performance, but Samsung offers outstanding CPU performance, and I will be very interested in going hands-on with this. The improvements to AI, and that's been, of course, the buzzword for the last couple of years now, that matters a lot when you're dealing with things like intelligent, like photo specific. I don't know how much of that is tied into the actual image signal processor for the camera section of this chipset, because these mobile platforms like this, they're going to include ISPs for everything in addition to just your 8 CPU cores and your graphics cores and everything else. So the AI improvements are actually probably more significant than I might think off the top of my head. You know, there's probably a lot of applications on your Android phone that could benefit from that, depending on how they're going to implement it. But just in general, just looking over the specs here, we don't have final clocks for things like the GPU, CPU. They're saying 20% performance increase, but you know, what are the clocks? Exynos M5, 2X Cortex A76, and 4X Cortex A55. So they're kind of following the trend that Apple set forth, where you have fewer high performance cores and then more of those lower performance cores to do background tasks, to do the things that don't need to clock up as high, which greatly enhances your battery life. So this is not just one of those, you know, big little configurations, 4 big, 4 small, that we've seen in the past.
I thought it was interesting. One of the things Andre points out in the article on the NANDTech was that there is no modem data listed in the Exynos 990, but they announced the Exynos modem 5123, which is kind of crazy, right? It's an update of the 5100 that they've been using this year, 2G to 5G sub 6, as well as millimeter wave. So now the maximum throughput on it has gone up massively. Downlink speeds of up to, quote, 3 gigabits per second while offering 422 megabytes per second upload. I should say 3 gigabits per second, 422 megabits per second upload. 5G sub 6, they're saying 5.1 gigabits per second download, 7.35 gigabit per second in millimeter wave networks. They have up to 8x carrier aggregation and a 1024 QAM. And this is a pretty sophisticated, pretty fast modem on this. And apparently, part of the reason behind this is that having a discrete 5G modem is partially because the 5G modems are still massive. The dies are still huge. And
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, compared to LTE, there's just no way to reasonably integrate it at this point. That's the trade-off. It's like we've gone back in time to when baseband was not part of the SoC. It's a separate chip, and it's because it's physically a lot larger. I don't know if it's being made on a different process than the 7-nanometer process, but probably different yields, different. It's just it makes more sense for them to have a discrete product at this point, and it's just I don't know why that's necessary, because 5G is not going to be on every handset, or maybe everything with the 990 is going to.
Well, this is a flagship chipset for them. This is not going to be, this is going to be at the high-end phones, the $1,000 price range, $800,000 price range. By next year, it'll kind of make sense to have 5G on flagships, or maybe more accurately, I think 5G is going to be one of those checkbox features where it's like, if I'm spending $1,000 for a phone, I'm going to get 5G. Gosh darn it. We'll see. It's 5G is slowly rolling out.